Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith, the nutrition detective, here on another Friday. We have a little bit of celebrating to do. This is the 30th live stream. So, yeah, since we do them weekly, that means we're well over doing these for 6 months, and it's been fun. So, before I started, I wanted to go over just a little something. Client who is a testing and consultation client of mine came to my what we call office hours, which is the 6 months worth of small group follow-ups that I offer my individual testing and consultation clients, the people who work with me directly on their labs, and we go over hair analysis and blood tests. And then I give follow-up because many practitioners don't understand that people who are in unstable states of health, who are not in good states of health, they're sensitive to many, many things, and they've tried lots and lots of approaches, most of which made them worse. They don't always do really well with one-size-fits-all recommendations and like, okay, here's your protocol and just come back when you need me. That doesn't work for these folks. These are the kind of folks I get. I get the people who other doctors couldn't help. And I take it very seriously. And so one of the things I do as part of my testing and consultation packages is we do 6 months of follow-up small group Zoom meetings. I offer 2 of them a week, morning and afternoon, so that different people can make it. And we get to test things out. We get to see how they do on things. We get to figure things out. So anyway, this is from a wife and husband team. And they left a little testimonial for me, and I thought I'd read it for you. Thank you so much for the advice you gave us today. My husband is totally amazed at how much accurate information you keep giving us. He said, quote, "This doctor is absolutely brilliant. He takes the intelligent approach by recognizing that during the healing process of the body exhibits various symptoms. So he helps the body's natural processes by looking at various temporary symptoms and helping it along the way, as opposed to the unintelligent approach of conventional doctors, mainstream as well as alternative, who take a temporary symptom and declare it the problem. They do not consider the body's natural processes, so the temporary symptom may get fixed, but other damage is created in the body because their approach interferes with the body's natural healing processes." So that is what I was thinking of that. And one of the things that I believe, well, I talk about this a lot. That, okay, multiple things cause potassium deficiency in the body. Multiple things. Potassium is one of the biggest bang for the buck changes that people can make in their routine. Now, some people are going to listen to this and they're going to go out and take too much potassium because that's the kind of personalities you are. And I have lots of people like this on the program, and I'm constantly going, you need to stop doing that. Of like, oh, here's the accelerator pedal, push it all the way to the floor. That's the best way to get there. It's also the best way to get into a really bad accident. Many of you out there, including myself in the past, have hurt ourselves by going too gung-ho on diets, too gung-ho on supplements. Everybody sees that it's like the American way, right? More is better, bigger is better. Let's do it. Let's just jam it all in. So let's go over something. Let's go over some things that cause potassium deficiency symptoms. I'm going to have to find some of these things. But so I have this paper here. It's pretty well known in the hair analysis community. It's one of the things they actually get right. Most of the hair analysis community doesn't do that well at things. One of the things they do get right is that copper toxicity, copper depletes potassium. And so I posted a paper here about, it was a Wilson's disease. Wilson's disease is a chronic accumulation of copper in the liver. And they were talking here about a boy with Wilson's disease And they say a 17-year-old boy presented with numerous episodes of hypokalemic, that's low blood potassium, hypokalemic weakness of the lower limbs of undetermined etiology. They don't know the cause of it since 12 years of age. There's other research. I'm presenting it. I'm going to keep it simple today. Low blood potassium can be related to copper excess. Now, most of you ladies out there have copper excess. Many of you men also have copper excess. So one of the things that will cause copper deficiency is copper toxicity. Now, I'm going to find the other paper I have in my Slack, which is the my research database that only I can contribute to, but my inner circle members on the network get to look at. Let me find it. Renal potassium. Should be able to find it quickly. There it is. How about this one? For all you vitamin D fans. Renal potassium wasting induced by vitamin D. Oh, you mean vitamin D supplements deplete potassium? We should have everybody take vitamin D supplements. No. Watch my video on this channel about vitamin D2 and D3 supplements are poison. They are rat poison. Terra D3, T-E-R-A D3. Why do you think they call it D3? It's a rat poison. D-Con, D-Con is a rat poison. They tell you don't let your dogs eat this. It will kill your dogs. Don't handle this with bare hands. But this is vitamin D. It's good for us. No. Watch my video. It was studied as a genocidal tool in South Africa. Don't. Get some sunlight or a tanning lamp. Don't eat vitamin D. It's not good for you. It will end badly. Now, one of the things that vitamin D does on a hair test is it raises calcium and it lowers potassium. This is well known in the hair analysis world. That's another thing. They get the potassium things mostly right. Do you know that in the hair analysis world, they call the calcium to potassium ratio the thyroid ratio? So raising calcium and lowering potassium is what vitamin D does on a hair test. In the hair testing world, what do they call the thyroid ratio? The calcium to potassium ratio. When does that ratio show tendencies towards low thyroid symptoms, hypothyroid symptoms? When the calcium's high and the potassium's low. So therefore, what would vitamin D be doing directly? Probably suppressing your thyroid function. Now, let me find about vitamin A. So what vitamin A does, vitamin A blocks your potassium channels. So by blocking the potassium channels, the potassium doesn't move in the direction it should. So what would happen is you could show potassium deficiency symptoms, and yet your labs look fine. Maybe some of you have had this. Maybe some of you have noticed this. This is part of the problem. Let me find the... oh, come on now. Hold on, let me find it in here. I'm looking, this is an article I wrote. It's in the Advanced Detox program. Let me find it. Where did I, oh my gosh. There it is. Boy, I didn't exactly make the mechanism of increased intracranial hypertension or headaches in vitamin A toxicity. And so I did not put a great, oh, here we go. Retinoic acid blocks potassium channels in human lymphocytes. That's the title of the study. I think they told you what's happening. Okay. Evidence, here's another one. Evidence of decreased activity of intermediate conductance calcium-activated potassium channels during retinoic acid-induced differentiation in motor neuron-like NSC34 cells. So, that's a big, long title. 2 papers, very simple for me to find, show that vitamin A, retinoic acid, the so-called active form of vitamin A, also known in the pharmaceutical world as the most dangerous and potentially deadly form of vitamin A. They even have a term for it. It's called retinoic acid syndrome. There's a whole syndrome that people can get when they give them retinoic acid, the active form of vitamin A, as chemotherapy. I know I want to take a vitamin that's used as chemotherapy, don't you? And people will go, well, that's not the same thing. Okay. If a chemist can't tell the difference between a molecule of retinoic acid that came from food and a molecule of retinoic acid that came from a pharmaceutical pill, there is no difference. Stop arguing that there's a difference. And if you're going to say that there's magical food complexes that protect you from the problems of vitamin A, what you're admitting is you're admitting that it's a poison and that you need protection from it. So either way, it's a poison. You either need protection from it or you're admitting it's the same thing as a pharmaceutical because your body turns those things. I have a study. Where is that paper? Let me find. This is also in the food vitamin A is the same as natural vitamin A is the same as synthetic vitamin A. So I want you to hear this. This is the title: Modulation of Plasma All-Trans Retinoic Acid Concentrations by the Consumption of Carotenoid-Rich Vegetables. Modulation means the changing of. Plasma, they mean basically blood. All-trans retinoic acid is one of the retinoic acids your body turns vitamin A into. When it's sold to you in a pharmaceutical form, it's called retin-A or tretinoin. Okay? Let's just find the key part here. This study the results and conclusion. This study shows that consumption of carrot juice, a natural source of vitamin A, containing high concentrations of the pro-vitamin A carotenoid beta-carotene, results in slightly non-significantly increased plasma retinol concentrations and strong, significantly increased plasma concentrations of ATRA, all-trans retinoic acid. So all the guys out there, all the nose to tail carnivores and guys pushing retinol. So this beta carotene basically didn't raise the blood retinol, probably because that was all being stored in the liver as retinol esters. All you have to do is add a free fatty acid, which a lot of these folks are eating tons of fats, perfect to store vitamin A in the liver in a bad way and cause fatty liver long term, which is what happens. But they saw strong, significantly increased, almost double plasma concentrations of retin A in the blood. Why is retin A bad? Well, they did a study on veterans where they gave them retin A to put on their faces to hopefully prevent skin cancer, and they had to stop the study because too many of them died. Oh, a vitamin was killing people. You don't say. Bill Gates loves to give high vitamin A vegetables and vitamin A shots to people in third world countries. It's probably no coincidence. Probably not. So, potassium deficiency. I have multiple articles in the Love Your Liver program where I go over approaches to this because it's highly individual dependent. There is not one approach. There is not one thing that works for some people. Some people, food is the only thing that works and supplements don't work. And some people, they try one type of supplement and it works amazingly well. And some people can't take any potassium supplements. I've had some people where if they go over a certain amount of potassium a day, which is sometimes about half of what the Institute of Medicine recommends, they actually get cramps. And I tell people all of these things. This is why people tell me you're the only doctor who told me what would probably happen, for better or worse. And I tell people, if this happens, stop. And if this happens, that's good. You could try more or you could stay at that dose. I don't know why more doctors don't treat their clients or patients like individuals. I don't know. Maybe it's just my pattern recognition skills, and so I see that there's different people who need different things. So now into the questions. Gretchen asks, "Hi, Dr. Smith. What's your opinion of grounding, aka earthing? Helpful, harmful, neither? Thanks." Okay. Grounding or earthing in the past, I'm sure, was really helpful. Now, grounding or earthing today, especially in cities, there was an article by I forget his name, but the Electric Sense guy. I did a podcast with him, but I'm blanking on his name right now. I'm so close to it. Anyway, he wrote an article in the past about grounding, and he's like, if you're really close to something, let's say power lines that are run under the ground, grounding in that area might not be a good idea. There's going to be, people will say, oh, the ground absorbs it all, but I don't think so. It could if they're deep enough. Is it better to have them in the ground than over your head? Yes. But the earth has been doing some very interesting things. And so one of the concepts of earthing and grounding is that it's based on the idea that the earth has this so-called heartbeat, the Schumann resonance of 7.83 hertz, if I recall correctly. Now, for anyone who chooses to go look it up, I know I have an app on my phone. Let's see what it's called. I go over space weather in the program and how to read some of these apps to the best of my knowledge, and how I've seen it correlate with people's symptoms. For those of you, it's February 18th. For those of you who may have been sleeping poorly within the last 4 days, maybe you've had some weird muscle aches coming up and it doesn't make any sense. You're going, why does this ache? It's because of the full moon recently. This full moon has been extremely strong. Maybe you were out last night and saw how bright it was on the 17th. It was daylight out there practically. It is right now a very, very strong full moon. So I got this app. It's called, here, I'll type it in the chat because I think maybe a Brazilian guy did it. Resonancia Schumann. And I got it on Google Play. I have no idea. I don't even begin to mess around with Apple. So if you're an Apple person, you're on your own. It tracks the Schumann resonance. And when you start to look at the levels of the Schumann resonance, it is nowhere near 7.83 anymore. They're hitting I've heard over 100 hertz. There's spikes up to like 150. And I had multiple people, including myself. I had the earthing products. My ex-mother-in-law used to actually work at Canyon Ranch when they were bringing in all the earthing products there to sell to their clients and to have their massage therapists stand on earthing mats. And they were giving it out like candy to all the staff to take home and mess around with. And so I already had earthing products, and I had more free earthing products. This should be great, right? I swear I put it on my bed, and after a while, I'm very sensitive to this stuff. After a while, I started feeling like I actually slept worse. So did my ex-wife at the time. So did several of my clients who paid attention to that stuff, where I asked them, I'd say, well, there's like, so what do you think about earthing? And I'd be like, yeah, I tried it. I had this weird suspicion that it made me sleep worse. And then the client said, I totally felt the same thing. So you guys should know one of the reasons the people on the earth are going so bonkers right now is because the earth and whatever you think of space these days, whatever is going on around us is going bonkers, and it's affecting everybody's mental state. Maybe you've noticed the world is kind of bonkers. If you're here listening to me, I'm sure you've noticed that the earth is going bonkers. It's like mass formation psychosis and all this stuff where people are believing lies. Because why are people believing the lies? Here's the simple truth, folks. They're too scared of if what they believed, as if the lies they believed were actually incorrect, the truth would be too scary for them. So they absolutely cannot admit to the truth. It's just why. It's that the truth is too scary. For many people who have poisoned themselves on vitamin A and copper and this other stuff, some of you folks find me and then we get you out of it. And many other people are too scared because how could Weston Price be wrong? How could Ray Peat be wrong? Bad science can come from all sorts of places. The elite are not a new thing. Do you think maybe some of the elite infiltrated nutrition circles and were promoted to the top of the game? In the network, David Hagerston goes into the connections potentially to the elite of lots of people in the nutrition world. He does amazing work. So I'm not going to say, do I think earthing or grounding in the right situation? I mean, that Schumann resonance is worldwide. That's not something that just, you can't be on a beach somewhere and be like, oh, the Schumann resonance here must be amazing. And when the whole world is having, spikes in the Schumann resonance. So can it be very good for people? Absolutely. Yes. Like one of the ways to reset yourself after a flight where you cross time zones and you want to help fix the jet lag as quickly as possible is to do some grounding in the new space. Bare feet, bare ground, like concrete doesn't do it. You want to be bare feet on bare ground. And that can help reset you to the new. You want to be, looking at, getting sunlight in your eyes from the new place, if you can, and getting your bare feet on bare ground. Can that be absolutely helpful? Even if there's Schumann resonance going on like crazy, yeah, that would still be helpful. But if you were to try earthing or grounding where you are at and you were suspicious that there might be EMFs, unhealthy ones in the ground, possibly going up your little wire to connect to your earthing equipment, or you just try earthing in one area and you don't seem to feel good there, it may not be good for you there. It may not be a good time. So context is everything. One of the biggest things I go over here is context, and this is absolutely contextual. So there's that. Apocalypse asks, is a vitamin A serum level of 40 good for someone who is just starting to follow your approach? I don't put value judgments on vitamin A tests because they don't reflect the storage capacity of vitamin A of the liver. Most people who come to me who are seeking help and who know that they have a history. I just had somebody the other day, they were talking about they did tretinoin, they did the whole cod liver oil thing, they did the eating liver thing. They took 50,000 units of vitamin A of supplement-wise for a significant period of time. So they just knew they were absolutely vitamin A toxic. And they come to me and their vitamin A serum retinol was 45. They know they're vitamin A toxic. I know they're vitamin A toxic. Someone's vitamin A level, until they have been, someone's initial vitamin A level means it doesn't change anything I do with them. I don't need a vitamin A level to help people. Never have. Sometimes the sickest people come to me with the lowest vitamin A. Let me tell you a story about vitamin A levels. I had a gentleman from Germany come to me. He used to be like an ex-professional athlete. Now he was basically on the German version of disability. His initial vitamin A level was 25, which was one of the lowest I had seen at the time. The story gets better. 3 months later, by doing on his own, he went and he got another serum retinol test after avoiding vitamin A. He'd been avoiding it in his diet as much as he could. His serum retinol went up to a 52 3 months later. So if he wasn't eating vitamin A. The only place where that vitamin A was coming was from his liver. It was coming out of his liver. Actually, we just have a new study. The study I posted on my social media about the Chinese kids, as they put them on a low vitamin A diet, their vitamin A levels actually started to go up. Isn't that what we're just talking about right now? So this is a phenomenon that we see, and it's happened in the literature before. 3 months after that, so it went 25 to 52. 3 months after that, it had gone up to 125. He still holds the record for the highest serum retinol I've ever seen. Your liver, your blood vitamin A means almost nothing in terms of how much you have stored in your liver. And the sicker people are, and the lower their vitamin A level is in the blood, but they have a pretty good idea that they got vitamin A toxic through their life, through their liver injuries, through their cholestasis, through all the things that I talk about, and they see themselves in what I talk about. They have the most stored in their liver. I think that's my theory. And it's done the most damage. And then we see it come out and we see their vitamin A go up. There was another paper. It was a case study in the literature. A guy he was taking something like 20,000 or more vitamin A, retinol palmitate, the fatty acid ester form of retinol. It's not synthetic. It's the most commonly found vitamin A ester in foods. So your cod liver oil has retinol palmitate. Stop trying to say that retinol palmitate is synthetic. You have no idea what you're talking about. He started at an 18. He'd been supplementing a lot of vitamin A. The doctors said, "We think you have vitamin A poisoning." Gosh, does that sound familiar? They had him stop his vitamin A pills and probably stop doing his crazy food source vitamin A too. Over the next 12 weeks, his vitamin A levels went up to a 62. So this is in the literature. So to say is 30 or 40 or 50 or 20 something a good level, it's just a level. It's a baseline. Your blood copper and your blood vitamin A only give us a hint of how much vitamin A is in your liver when they're high. When they're low, if you're not well, it's not telling us. It's like poker face. And then we see what happens as we treat. So commonly, when people start with really low vitamin A and they're really sick, I actually want to see it go up for a while, which that means their liver's starting to free up. Their liver's starting to finally dump stuff. And that's a good thing. And usually they're feeling better as we go. So that's that. There's no good or bad with a serum retinol level. It just is. And over time, what we want to see, so in the literature, they would also say that it was very, very common for people to go on a low vitamin A diet. The scientists said, we're afraid to put people on a low vitamin A diet. This is the summary of what they were saying. We're afraid to do it because what happens is their levels seem to stay really stable for a long time. I've seen this so many times. They're right on this. Their levels seem to stay really stable for a really long time until all of a sudden they drastically drop. All of a sudden they drastically drop. This is what I see in people. So when we have people, well, if you go back and watch my labs video on this channel, I had two previous vitamin A levels. One was like a 50 something and one was a 51 something. And then the next 6 months was a 28.2. I dropped by almost 50%. And I can tell you that I bet the drop is going to be even more drastic at my upcoming labs in March. I'm really hoping it's going to go way low. My plan, just to show everybody that you don't need vitamin A, is I'm going to get those blood tests. And do you know there's actually only 2 symptoms linked specifically in the research supposedly to vitamin A deficiency? And that's dry eye and night blindness, night vision problems. Well, to tell you, I've been going and taking nighttime classes in gun shooting. So apparently my nighttime vision isn't too bad. I don't have dry eye. I'm going to go and get an eye exam and record the doctor stating that I have no eye problems. And then we'll tag that up with my super low vitamin A level on the next test because I know it's going to be there. It's kind of fun destroying modern supposed nutrition. You were lied to. You were absolutely lied to. They lie to you in politics. They lie to you in economics. They lie to you in the science is settled. Get your pokey, wear your face diaper. They lie to you in science all the time. They've been lying to you with science for 100 years. The vitamin A farce started with the Rockefellers funding research on dairy. How many people does dairy cause problems for? What does dairy have in it? A lot of calcium we don't need, a lot of vitamin A we don't need, and a lot of vitamin D in food that we don't need. And then we add more to it. Brilliant. Rockefellers are big fans. So, Allison asks, infrared red light, does it work or no? I actually believe what infrared light and red light, some people are going to take this the wrong way and you're going to go and hurt yourself short term. I believe that actually, so one of the things that happens to vitamin A and other compounds in the skin, possibly including bile acids, is they oxidize. Sometimes when you oxidize these things, which is part of their detox process, well, you free them up and then they go floating into your blood because that's how they would leave. And while they're in your blood, they cause you all sorts of symptoms. I used to work for a gentleman here in town, a chiropractor. I bought his practice. This was a long time ago. This was like, 2008-ish. I actually bought his practice where we were some of the early people doing laser therapy, like using light to help speed healing. I believe I still have the most powerful therapy laser here in Tucson. Still, it's right over there. So do I absolutely believe in near infrared and red light? Yeah. One of the things we used to talk about is how if you treat somebody, especially let's say an older person who has more health conditions, and especially the older people who have health conditions who were excessively skinny, which would be the undertypes that I talk about in my program. Older, more time to get toxic. Skinnier tends to be just a worse state of health. I don't know if you actually know this, but the mortality risks show that underweight people actually die earlier than overweight people. So being underweight, it's not a good situation. It's just but eating more to fix it you can't just, as you underweight people know, you can't just shove calories in and just gain weight. It's not that easy. We have to fix your liver. And what we're seeing is often as people get their liver fixed enough, then they start gaining weight where they don't have to try, gaining good weight where they don't have to try. But just shoving calories in, it doesn't do anything for a lot of people. So, but older, longer to be toxic, more health conditions, they're more toxic. Underweight, that's a sign they're deeper in. The term I'm using now is deeper in the liver doo-doo. Fancy term, technical term, I know. But if you treated them with too much laser therapy, we called it laser therapy. It was actually super LEDs. They could have like a whole body kind of detox episode after that. What was going on? Well, you oxidized too much stuff in their skin and sent it into their bloodstream, and they didn't feel good. And they'd get over it, and then they'd usually feel better after that. But that dumping can be rough. It's not fun. So just like sunlight and ultraviolet B light, if you're going to do infrared, near infrared, or red light, do it to an amount where you don't throw yourself into symptoms. You may have to find what that level is, and it's not going to be fun. But once you know that level, Don't push that hard. Doc, it hurts when I do this. Then don't do that. Doc, I was great with, 2 minutes of a tanning lamp. And when I went to 6 minutes of the tanning lamp, oh my gosh, I felt so horrible. Like I felt crappy for like 2 days. You pushed too hard. I'll say it again for the people in the back. This is not a game. You have been poisoned. I was poisoned. We've all been poisoned. We stored the poison in our body. Here's another saying, it's a poison on the way in, it's a poison on the way out. You dump these poisons too fast and too much of them get into your bloodstream and you're going to make yourself feel awful. It doesn't mean the program's not working. This would be like somebody driving a race car and they take a turn too fast and they crash into the wall. And then they come out and they go, this damn car doesn't turn right. No, you took the turn too fast. You were trying to go too fast and you lost control and you got into an accident. I'm constantly, everywhere I'm posting, telling people slow down. They're like, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this way? You're pushing too hard. Slow down. And I have lots of other people in the network. We got 900 plus people in the network over at nutritiondetective.com who have learned this most of the time the hard way, and they help others. Think of my network's like a mini Facebook where everybody's working towards the same goal, which is to get healthier, which is really cool. And now other people have kind of internalized and they've realized what I'm saying is generally true, and they help others with that same advice. And I really appreciate all of you who are in the network who do this. So, but does it work? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Research showed that like with sports injuries, laser therapy would reduce the healing time by about 50%. Light is amazing. We need light. Can really sick people get too much light? Absolutely. Can they get too much exercise for when they're really toxic? Yes. So the whole idea, like, oh my gosh, I'm on Twitter and guys are like, exercise and sun and brr. And it's like, yeah, y'all don't even know the kind of people I'm dealing with here. And most of you know this. You've tried to do all these things. You're like, well, they say just get lots of sun and get lots of exercise and I'll be all healthy. And you try it and you're wrecked. And there's nobody else on the internet who's telling you that maybe just not yet. You'll be able to do that stuff. Maybe just not yet. Or not that much. Maybe you're just going to walk for now. Maybe you don't have to deadlift quite yet. Okay. And believe me, I'm a meathead. I've competed in powerlifting. I've competed in Olympic lifting. I understand. I used to want to be a bodybuilder. I've done it. It used to wreck me if I went too hard. After 4 weeks of training hard, in my 5th week, I always got sick. I always wondered, why can't I follow these programs? Why do these programs always wreck me and make me get a cold? Probably had to do with the ketoconazole I took as a teenager that has plenty of research on it damaging your testosterone, which means it was damaging your liver and putting too much bile into your blood. So, Sentient Now asks, my eyelids are puffy on the upper eyelids. What could that be? Could it be too much salt? I use about 3,000 milligrams per day. My food doesn't taste good without it, though. That's a very specific symptom. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they salt their food a lot is they often don't get enough potassium to counter it. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, I think people should be getting at least as much potassium as sodium. So if you're going to push 3,000 milligrams of sodium in a day, I would be looking at your potassium intake and making sure that it's at least 3,000 in forms that you tolerate. Because like I said earlier, not everybody tolerates all forms. The sodium, so potassium is well known in the research to help reduce blood pressure, and I've seen potassium help reduce swelling. You need there's a certain balance between sodium and potassium. And one of the ones that is kind of my thing that I explore, I know it exists, but I don't have time to create a whole research thing around it, is a magnesium to potassium ratio. There is a magnesium to potassium ratio. Nobody in the hair analysis world talks about it. For people who try topical magnesium and it makes them anxious or makes them feel like their heart's racing or makes them feel like they can't sleep, topical magnesium chloride, when people have reactions to it, it's potassium deficiency. What do we talk about can cause potassium deficiency? Vitamin D supplements, which also can store in the liver, vitamin A toxicity, and copper toxicity. Vitamin D toxicity, we can get rid of that in 6 months to a year. That's not a problem. That goes away when you stop shoving the rat poison down your pie hole. That's easy to fix. Body very quickly gets rid of vitamin D. Vitamin A, you're looking at 2 years, 3 years. Grant Genereux and I have a video on this channel talking about the timeline of vitamin A detox. I do think with some of the things I'm about to come out with, we're going to speed that up greatly. And then copper toxicity, that takes a while. I've had people where we couldn't lower their high blood copper for several years. Copper toxicity takes a while. You store a lot of copper in your liver. And then you hear the guys out there, eat liver. It's super high in copper, super high in vitamin A, super high in iron. Oh, you want to know what I just learned is super high in iron too? That the elite want to feed us in the future? Bugs. Bugs are outrageously high in iron. Like I think they said it was 100 grams of dried crickets. Okay. 100 grams, so that's 1/10 of a kilo. So that's like, I'm just going to do dirty math here. That's like 1/4 of a pound. Ish. Somebody can do the fancy math on it. I don't care. I'm doing a rough math here. 1/4 of a pound of dried crickets. 1,550 milligrams of zinc. I'm sorry, of iron. 1,550 milligrams of iron. Do you know that one of the biggest things that kills little kids is when they get into their parents' vitamins and they eat the vitamins and they get iron poisoning? And then they're saying, oh, it's super high in other nutrients. There's 20 milligrams of zinc. And I'm like, 20 milligrams of zinc in 100 grams of dried crickets, and you get 1,550 milligrams of iron? That's going to straight up kill people. Not going to take a long time either. So Klaus Schwab wants you to enjoy your bugs as his plans are to slowly make you infertile. And if you're infertile and you don't reproduce, then what happens to the population? What does Bill Gates want? What is it that they all want? Dom1 asks, is it true that facial asymmetries could be a vitamin A toxicity effect? Well, it's possible. Let me go and find, just to show you one of the strongest associations between vitamin A changing the face . Here it is, vitamin A and clefting, putative biological mechanisms. Let me put this one here. Let me find. This review identifies putative, which I believe means theoretical. Biological mechanisms underlying the association between maternal, motherly, vitamin A intake and cleft palate. Excessive vitamin A may disturb all 3 stages of palatogenesis. That's the creation of the palate, the upper part of your mouth. 1, during shelf outgrowth, it may decrease cell proliferation and thus prevent tissue development. 2, it may prevent shelf elevation by affecting extracellular matrix composition and hydration. And 3, during shelf fusion, it may affect epithelial differentiation and apoptosis, which precludes the formation of a continuous palate. In general, high doses of vitamin A, that means natural or synthetic, affect palatogenesis through interference with cell proliferation and growth factors, such as transforming growth factor beta and platelet-derived growth factor. The effects of lower doses of vitamin A need to be investigated in greater depth in order to improve public health recommendations. So, I'm going to say that if vitamin A can cause cleft lip and cleft palate, it absolutely could cause facial asymmetries. That just makes sense, doesn't it? I haven't seen any research on it. I mean, I can go, let's see, asymmetry, vitamin A, PubMed. Let's just see if there's anything. Ooh. Well, here, geez. Yeah, okay, let me put this link here. I think we have the smoking gun here. Now, let me tell you, Grant Genereux, ggeneroux.blog, or you could just search Grant Genereux blog on the internet. He's a buddy of mine. He's the guy who introduced me to vitamin A toxicity. He says that he believes he's been doing this now for going on 7 years, maybe more, maybe 7 years plus. He has been eating the same thing just about with minor little variations for 7 years. He's going to do it 10 years to prove the point of we don't need vitamin A. I'm going to get my labs down and I'm going to go do the eye test, and we're both going to be proving this stuff in our own way. And if we ever can figure out the funding, we're going to redo the original vitamin A is a necessary vitamin studies, and we're going to prove that they cannot be replicated, that vitamin A is not a vitamin. It's going to be fun. So, okay. Asymmetry in mandibulofacial dysostosis. Mandible, facial, obviously. Dysostosis would be malformations or pathological conditions of the bone. Okay? So let's see. Mandibulofacial dysostosis is an autosomal dominant malformation incorporating a number of facial and hearing defects. Let me skip forward. Rat models showing similar facial defects have already been described. These phenocopies, the way that the bone's expressed, developed when the pregnant dam, the pregnant mouse, was given a dose of 100,000 units of vitamin A on day 8.5 of gestation. This report describes the effects of a dose of 50,000 units given to the pregnant dam on day 8.5. An asymmetric deformity was produced, which was similar to that occasionally seen in man. Macroscopic and microscopic observations distinguishing the departures from normal development of the affected rats. Possible causal mechanisms are discussed. It's vitamin A toxicity. It's a poison. They gave these mice a poison. There's your facial asymmetry right there. Facial asymmetry, cleft lip, cleft palate. I have a woman who had multiple children with cleft lip or cleft palate. I forget what. I think some of them had both. And I believe, if I recall correctly, her last child, after working with me for a while, did not have it. That is the kind of work we are doing here. Free Michigan is DMSO healthy topically. I am not a fan of sulfur compounds. Full stop. They are band-aids. They are symptom addressers. Sulfur in general slows down ALDH. This is in the literature. And sulfur depletes B1. Why would sulfur deplete B1? Because when you slow down ALDH, aldehyde dehydrogenase, you put a bottleneck in it and you create more aldehydes. What does B1 do? B1 binds to aldehydes. It makes the aldehydes less toxic, but it also depletes your B1. So generally, things that slow down ALDH also deplete B1. I don't use or recommend, other than people doing Band-Aid treatments, which are not addressing the cause, I don't use any sulfur compounds. MSM, DMSO, N-acetylcysteine, none of them. Free Michigan asks, what about molecular hydrogen? Is it the miracle supplement that is touted to be? I don't believe so. We did quite the experiment. I did quite the experiment on it with myself. And during the time I thought it was possibly useful, with my clients, I thought it was going to be useful. I think it can be a Band-Aid for some people. Kind of like a lot of things that seem to slow down ALDH, and people think at the start they feel better and it seems to get them healthier at the start. It makes their symptoms less, but over time it slows things down and it makes them less healthy. Just a quick idea on that one. We just talked about aldehyde dehydrogenase. It's taking dehydrogenase enzyme that takes off hydrogen. Okay. Molecular hydrogen. What's that doing? It's putting hydrogens into the system. Would putting molecular hydrogen into the system be directly at odds with a dehydrogenase enzyme? I don't think that research is out there, but I'm going to go with what I think is pretty good logic on this one. And the fact that I had some people who used it. I used it myself. May have felt, I think I felt a little better at the start, but that faded with time. That's what I call the duration paradox effect, which is where you get a drug-like effect at the start. It seems to help. And then over time, it causes the exact thing that it seemed to help. It causes the opposite of the exact thing you were hoping to help. So coffee as an example. People drink coffee. It helps my energy. You're taking a pesticide, a plant-produced pesticide, and it's stimulating your nervous system in the wrong way, but you feel energy and you like it. And what does it do over time? Everybody becomes more tired. Their sleep quality gets worse. Basically, their health slowly slips away from them. Did you know caffeine slows down aldehyde dehydrogenase? Oh, coffee is also high in polyphenols. Polyphenol. Go look up phenol. It was used as chemical warfare in World War I. Wait, vitamin D was studied for a genocidal tool in South Africa. Vitamin D actually slows down ALDH too. Polyphenols are what they try to sell us as phytoestrogens, antioxidants, tannins, and what's the other one? I'm skipping, but those are bioflavonoids. Bioflavonoids. They're all polyphenols. Multiple phenols bound together. Guess what the research shows that they do? They slow down ALDH and they deplete B1. What are we told to do? Eat lots of brightly colored fruits and vegetables. What do brightly colored fruits and vegetables have in them? Well, if they don't have a lot of vitamin A, they've got a lot of polyphenols and vice versa. So, not a big fan of sulfur, polyphenols, all these things that weird mainstream alternative medicine is trying to get everybody to eat these things. And they do cell studies. Cell studies are mostly garbage. That's how they fool you. How could they fool you with cell studies? Duration paradox. Cell studies and short-term studies can show the exact opposite effects of full body, like in vivo studies, and long-term studies. They use cell studies to hide the toxicity from you because there's only one cell cycle. That's how they hide it from you. But yeah. Many of these things we've tried. We've experimented with them. They didn't work. They didn't pan out. So, but these are the things you find in the Love Your Liver program. Butch asks, hi, doc, your take on lycopene. It's in prostate formulas for frequent nighttime urination. It's a carotenoid. We don't use it. Simple as that. I can tell you that I've fixed all of my urinary issues, my prostate related issues, without using any lycopene. I remember, I think it was Lauren Cordain, the paleo diet, one of the original paleo diet researchers, who wrote an article saying that he thought that lycopene actually helped the prostate in a way by actually destroying prostate cells. It was like a friendly fire thing. Now I kind of look at that and I go, that's totally possible. Just because somebody says at the start, like, lycopene seems to help my nighttime urination, doesn't mean that continues. Lycopene is not an essential nutrient. If you are taking things that are not essential nutrients, and mostly by essential nutrients, I mean minerals, and there's very few of those that we actually really need. If you're taking a non-essential nutrient, especially plant-based, and it seems to make the body do something, that is a drug effect. People say, oh, but it's natural. And it's like, no, it's a drug effect because it's not an essential nutrient. It's either forcing your body to do something it couldn't do itself, or it's making your body, it's giving your body something to do something that it couldn't do itself or didn't want to do itself. Do you believe that the body will make the best decisions it can in any given situation? That is a key thing to what we do. Do we believe that the body would try to make the best decision it could in any situation? Sure. I have this concept that I've been thinking about, which is potentially with low hormone issues. If we talk about liver injury and cholestasis, and one of the things that the liver has the hardest time processing is hormones. Okay. So if your liver had too much to process and it couldn't keep up with everything, and your liver doesn't have control over the poisons you keep putting into your body, what is one thing that your liver could get your body to reduce its production of, to reduce its workload so it could try to catch up? It could reduce your production of hormones, because that's one thing your body has control over, right? That they'll say, well, only worry about the things that you can control and then take action on them. What if your body, the main thing it has control over is your hormone levels? And when you're poisoned, your body says, I can't keep up with the poisoning and the hormones, so I got to reduce something somewhere, and so it reduces your hormones. That's just a theory. But why do people's hormones get better when they stop drinking alcohol? They stop putting in the poison. It's very simple. I just saw somebody, talking about quitting cigarettes and alcohol, or reducing their dose of one made them want to reduce their dose of another. Poisons beget poisons. The more poisons you put into your body, the more poisons you want. That's how it works. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. That's the way things work in the world. We tend to get more of what we're getting. So if you want less poisons in your body, start working on the poisons that you can stop putting in first, and then work on the harder ones later, because it will be easier. As you kind of like the Dave Ramsey thing, where you start getting positive momentum, you work on the smallest debts first and you get rid of those, and you kind of go, okay, this is working. And so you get rid of the easiest toxins to get rid of first, and you go, okay, that's cool, I got rid of that one. And then just like the next thing, you move on to the next debt, or you move on to the next poison, and you get that one out, and you're going, oh, this is cool, I got this, I'm feeling better, I want less poisons. And then you pick the next thing and you start working on that. One of the problems is we have people take everything out all at once. Not by my suggestion. Remember, I'm the guy telling everybody to slow down. We have everybody take out everything at once. And not only are they freaking out because they've had to completely overhaul their diet that they were used to when they didn't have to do it all at once. And then they start detoxing really hard because they took everything out all at once. And their liver starts saying, okay, we have tons of room to get rid of tons of garbage. So it gets rid of it all at once. And then you feel bad. And the people who don't understand blame the program. And the people who do understand say, you just push too hard. So, wait, this thing really jumps sometimes. Okay. The houses we live in ask, we have power lines under the ground here, and the electric company told me that the lines are wrapped in enough non-conducting material that it does not affect the ground current. Are they wrong? I don't know how to check it, but you'd have to check. I mean, you can always check it by trying grounding, but if you're not in a very good situation where you know how you feel and you're kind of on a stable state of health, it can be really hard to judge whether that's working or not. And then you could, if you start noticing that, if you start, let's say, using that app, that Resonancia Schumann, I'm sure there's other apps out there. This is just one that I got. It was free. But if you can start correlating, like when there's a night when you see a big Schumann resonance jump and you see your sleep goes bad, then, I mean, Schumann resonance is connected to health. Absolutely, in the literature. Absolutely. Is it Ben Richardson or Ben Davidson on the disaster prediction app and Suspicious Observers? He goes over space weather a lot. He's where I got a lot of the stuff, and I've just kind of expanded on it for my people inside the network. Lloyd Burrell. They were just posting here. Lloyd Burrell does Electric Sense. Yeah, Lloyd Burrell, awesome guy, had me on his podcast. We talked about EMF sensitivity because that's what he deals with, and I was talking about good old copper, the most conductive, or AKA electric mineral that's around that people are toxic in, making them too conductive. This can show up, these are not the only symptoms of copper toxicity, but for those of you out there who have, the term is described as an inner trembling. If you've had it, you know what it is. If you're kind of going, what does inner trembling mean? I don't get it. You haven't had it. When you've had it, you know what it is. So inner trembling, or a nerve feeling like buzzing or like electricity almost in you. Why would you be feeling these like vibrations in you, or this zapping kind of tingling electric feeling? Because you're probably copper toxic and you're conducting too much electricity. You are a biochemical sack of meat. It's what you are. And if you put too much copper in the solution of the sack, you're going to conduct more than you should. And iron, being the most magnetic mineral, you get too much of that, you're going to be too magnetic. And that's going to cause problems elsewhere in other ways. But anyway, copper toxicity, that was what I talked about on Lloyd Burrell's show. And then vitamin A absolutely worsens copper toxicity. So I feel really bad for you Morley people. I feel really bad for you guys. But it's going to make more clients for me. So I guess I don't want it to happen. So, okay. Caroline asked, did you ground bed sheets by plugging into the outlet or with grounding rod? I did not. I did the outlet. But it was absolutely it was certain nights. So I had the earthing one with the one that went into the wall. Everything tested fine. But yeah, it was absolutely certain nights I would just sleep horribly, and other nights I would sleep fine. And it absolutely my then wife, now ex-wife, was sleeping next to me, and she would sleep terribly on the exact same night. So it was either space weather, but solar cycles, solar patterns are what causes the Schumann resonance. So it is space weather. Schumann resonance is space weather. It's the Earth responding to the sun, the sun weather. And, we were absolutely reacting on the same nights. I keep track of lots of things. People have no idea how many things I keep track of in a general sense in my brain. So, The house we live in says I hooked up one of those grounding mats in my bed down to a ground in the earth and woke up feeling like my legs had no blood circulation. I want you guys to hear this. So this is good. Thank you for posting this. I hooked up one of those grounding mats in my bed down to a ground in the earth. So it wasn't the outlet grounding. It was the one in the earth. And I woke up feeling like my legs had no blood circulation. I agree that grounding can be dangerous if done wrong. I was so thankful for Lloyd Burrell posting his article. I don't remember what it is. If somebody finds it, wants to post it, that'd be great. But posting that article of this is probably good, but it could be bad in certain situations. And I was like, this guy thinks like I do. That's why I really liked Lloyd. Context is everything. So then the houses we live in said best grounding, go deep in the woods away from power lines and hug a tree and get barefoot. That is totally an option. I want to move to the mountains personally. I'm not a beach guy. I find the sound of the waves to be like so irritating because it's just this constantly changing noise in the background. It's like the worst white noise you could ever imagine. I don't like the beach. I want the mountains. I'm a freaking Viking. So yeah, give me the cold in the mountains. So the house we live in was just commenting, plugging into the wall can be really dangerous. I had the rod going in the ground and it was really unpleasant when I woke up. So yeah, it can be both. It can be both. The Schumann resonance, if you plug into the ground, you're not escaping it. It's coming through the line. Okay. So you guys are kind of having a chat here. Caroline says, what do you think of incline bed therapy? Raising the head of the bed 6 to 8 inches so you're on a 5-degree incline. I think it's a great way to slide off your bed. If you wanted to do the incline bed therapy, I think simply just think of rolling a marble like down an incline. All you need is a tiny incline. All you're trying to do is keep the fluids going a little bit downwards. I've heard people on Twitter say that they got really great results from just raising the head of their bed an inch, which would be that's all you need to make something start rolling downhill. And then you don't slide down your bed as much. 6 to 8 inches. I tried it. I got those. See, I've done, when I think of how many things I've tried, I did it for a while. I didn't notice a dang thing. But I don't have GERD issues. I mean, GERD issues are a big thing. People with sinus issues, it could really help, but it's helping a symptom. You don't have if we wanted to talk about natural, like laying on the flat ground is as natural as you could get in terms of a bed. And I've never read about people in the past having to go and sleep on the sides of hills to be healthy. So what we could say then is this whole sleeping on an incline is becoming something that's used because we're sick. If you have GERD or you're getting problems with your throat or whatever when you sleep, coughing up stuff, general like postnasal drip or what, this is all related to the bile. GERD, acid reflux, is bile in your stomach. We got the research. People with GERD have too much bile in their stomach. Where did the bile in their stomach come from? Well, it came from all the way down in their small intestine and went backwards up into their stomach. Morning sickness, bile in your stomach. Nausea, bile in your stomach. Vomiting bile in your stomach. So I think it's something that could help. It's something that would use, like my son, actually, we got a fancy German, it was fancy, but we bought it used. But it's a German-made bed that actually, where inside the bed, you can actually raise up the head of the bed for like when kids are sick, something like that. My son really loves it, but he's not really getting sick anymore. So when he was younger, he did. I've only been doing the vitamin A detox thing for about 3.5 years. So when my son was younger and I made him vitamin A toxic with goat milk, he used to get colds, sick. My kids don't really get sick anymore. and they go to public school. We live in an area with a nice public school district. So for anybody who wants to comment on that, I haven't had any problems. My son had a little altercation in school the other day, and the principal talked to me and he said, well, your son did everything he possibly could before he went off and physically solved the problem himself. And I was like, so he said, we made them both go pick up around the playground. And that was it. And I was like, wow. Told my son to stand up to this kid who was not being very nice to him, and he did, and he didn't get in trouble for it. So I'm not going to argue about that. But yeah, what I'm getting at is my kids are in a public school around these other sick kids who most of them, their brains don't work very well because they're all so poisoned. And mine aren't coming home getting sick all the time. That's what I'm saying. Oh wow, I'm skipping some of these because you guys are kind of having a conversation. The House We Live In says be careful with the grounding. Can't remember which country, but a country in Europe has warned against it too. What's the country that warned against having too much vitamin A from liver? Was it Finland? Let me go to my forum. I think it's Finland. They actually suggested that children eat no liver. Yeah, here we go. Here's my big article on it. We'll put it in here. Let me see if I can find the quotes. From the intake of vitamin A from liver foods among Finnish 1, 3, and 6-year-old children, a quantitative risk assessment. This is going to be the last thing I'm going to go over today. Liver consumption also has some potential risks. One of them is that liver contains vitamin A in retinoid form, which can be toxic if ingested in large amounts on a continued basis. This is from their government. In order to prevent excessive intake of vitamin A, liver-based foods have not been recommended for children under the age of 1 year since 1990. With toddlers, it has been advised that the consumption of liver-based foods, ground liver patties, liver steak, liver stew, liver casserole, liver sausage, and liver pate, should be restricted to a couple of meals per month. The impact of liver consumption on the intake of vitamin A was estimated separately for single meal and daily long-term average consumption. Based on risk assessment, the following conclusions were made. Although consumption of liver foods helps to fulfill some children's daily vitamin A needs, there is a risk of intolerably high retinoid intake among other children. Skipping ahead, when considering safe, don't poison your children, safe long-term consumption of liver foods in addition to portion size, eating frequency is an important factor. 1-year-old children can safely eat liver sausage or pate, and 3 and 6-year-old children all liver foods as long as they do not do it too often. The safe portion size and eating frequency depends on the age group and type of liver food. And how do you know if your children are getting poisoned from it? Well, you don't know until it's too late. Oh, here's why. Chronic toxicity occurs when lesser amounts that are not acutely toxic are consumed for several weeks, months, or years. It accumulates. Let me read that again. Chronic toxicity occurs when lesser amounts that are not acutely toxic, so you don't feel bad when you eat it, are consumed for several weeks, months, or years. All of you Weston A. Price people, all of you Agenus von der Planet's primal diet people, all of you sweet potato people shoving that down your face like it's manna, all of you Ray Peat people eating your liver and carrot salad and drinking all your milk. Another quote, onset of chronic toxicity is dependent on the dose and length of exposure. So, I think I figured this out. If you had an 11-kilo child, 25 pounds, Daily consumption of liver that is only the size of a matchbox in an 11 kilo, 25-pound child can potentially cause chronic long-term hypervitaminosis A. And that's when we're talking about that's the only source of vitamin A in their diet. 1 ounce of liver a day would cause chronic vitamin A toxicity. 1 ounce. What do you have people on Twitter talking about? I saw this one guy, Soul Bra, he had put chicken liver pate all over, like super thick, all over a piece of bread. And he was bragging about it. It's not going to end well. So why did I get sick and my family didn't get sick? Here's another quote. Tolerance to excess vitamin A intake has also been seen to vary between individuals. In one case study, 2 boys were given chicken liver that supplied about 690 micrograms a day of vitamin A and various supplements that supplied another 135 to 750 micrograms a day. One boy developed toxicity symptoms at the age of 2 years and the other one at the age of 6 years. An older sister who had been treated similarly remained completely healthy. I don't understand why I got sick and my friend didn't when we were both juicing, making carrot juice, or we were both eating Weston Price, because different people are different. And their conclusions. Let me just read this one last line. The risk assessment showed that long-term liver consumption may expose children to retinoid intakes higher than what is considered safe. Oh, but go ahead and keep making the Weston Price formula where you're putting grated liver into it and cod liver oil. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Don't watch my video on cod liver oil on this channel. Definitely don't watch that. Definitely don't watch my video about how eating liver sends people to the hospital in one sitting, or how chicken liver pate has killed a child. Oh, don't forget to watch definitely don't watch the vitamin D video where they talk about a child getting into their parents' vitamin D supplements and killing himself. Definitely don't watch any of those. Okay? That's sarcasm. So, we're all done for the day. Thank you for coming. And I'm going to go do my inner circle now with my group. Now, if you want to join the network, nutritiondetective.com is the place for that. If you want to work with me, nutritiondetective.com in the store is where you can find the packages. And we'll be back here next week. The inner circle I'm about to go do is another hour and a half of me answering questions like this in greater detail, where I can be more controversial than I can be here on YouTube. So if you're interested in that, that's in the network. You got to get into the network before you do that. And I will see you all next week. Have a great weekend. Bye now.